Hey everyone, what an absolutely wild day this has been. Let me walk you through everything that just happened because honestly, you're not going to believe this. So here's the thing, we know what went down today. We also have a pretty good understanding of why it happened, though I'll be honest, some folks might disagree with the reasons. I'm going to share what we know for certain, and I'll throw in a little bit of informed speculation along the way. But wow, the market absolutely tanked today. Here's the crazy part. This was the biggest liquidation event in crypto history. Yes, you heard that right. In history. And you know what? We made it through. We're still here, still standing, still breathing. And honestly, what we just witnessed was probably the bottom. Now, if you were watching XRP earlier and nearly had a heart attack, let me calm your nerves right now. There's absolutely nothing wrong with XRP specifically. The entire market moved down together, all at once. I was sitting here watching everything unfold, and I happened to catch the price right at the very bottom. According to LiveCoinWatch, XRP hit $2.02. I saw it happen in real time. I literally did a double take, then a triple take. I thought to myself, no way. This can't be right. I even checked to make sure I was looking at the right coin. Yep, it was definitely XRP, sitting there at $2.02. I'm sure many of you had the exact same reaction, but here's the important thing to remember. In the long run, none of this is going to matter. Events like this, these capitulation moments, they're actually golden opportunities for people who want to accumulate more crypto. This is not a signal that the end is near. It doesn't mean the market cycle is over. It doesn't mean crypto is broken. And it definitely doesn't mean everything is done and dusted. Cryptocurrencies are still incredibly useful. They still have real utility and real value. Cryptocurrencies, especially XRP, still have the exact same attributes that people find desirable.
What we saw today was simply a cascading liquidation event, combined with a lot of spooked people panic selling. That's it. That's what happened. Today is now officially in the history books when it comes to crypto, and it always will be. As I'm recording this right now, XRP is sitting at $2.37, and Bitcoin is at $112,546. But yeah, they were quite a bit lower earlier today. Now, here's something interesting. You can see the 24-hour low for XRP here, but it's changed since I first looked at it. Earlier, LiveCoinWatch was showing $2.02. There's something about how they pull data and calculate things automatically that causes these figures to shift, even when they probably shouldn't. They might want to tighten that up a bit. But anyway, earlier it definitely showed $2.02. But here's the kicker. That wasn't even the actual lowest price for XRP. If you check CoinMarketCap, you'll see that the 24-hour low for XRP was $1.53. This difference comes down to where these platforms are pulling their data from and how their algorithms are programmed to crunch the numbers. I don't think most exchanges dropped as low as $1.53, but some definitely did, and a few were even lower. This is just what CoinMarketCap is reporting. Most exchanges probably stayed quite a bit higher. But what this means is that on some exchanges, XRP's price basically dropped by about 50% in the snap of a finger. Welcome to crypto, everyone. It's absolutely wild out here. Now, of course, it wasn't just XRP that got hit. As I'm recording this, XRP is actually only down 15.73% over the last 24 hours. There are plenty of other coins that got hit way worse. Just look at the top 10 cryptocurrencies. Cardano is down almost 21%. Avalanche dropped over 24%. HBAR fell nearly 23%. So this is definitely a crypto-wide event, not something targeting any single coin. So what actually caused all of this? Let's dive into it, because this is where things get really interesting. Here's the headline that started everything.
Trump threatens massive tariff hike on China over rare earth dispute. This was the trigger, but there's a lot more to unpack here. Let me explain. President Donald Trump threatened on Friday to impose a massive increase in tariffs on Chinese products imported into the United States. This was his response to new export controls that China placed on rare earth materials from their country. Trump also threatened in a social media post to cancel his upcoming meeting with President Xi Jinping because of this dispute. We're going to circle back to that in just a few minutes, so stick with me. Stock markets dropped immediately after Trump's post on Truth Social about China. In it, he said there's no way that country should be allowed to hold the world captive with its rare earth policy. Markets got spooked and things started tumbling fast. This happened right around 10 a.m. Central Time. If you look at the XRP price chart, you can see exactly when the slide begins. It kept sliding and sliding for about 6 hours straight. The same thing happened with Bitcoin. Pull up the same time period and you'll see right where it really started moving downward. Look at this. You get close to 10 o'clock and then boom. Same pattern for Bitcoin. Pick any chart and you're going to see the exact same thing. So it starts going down and continues to slide. But here's where it gets really interesting. The slide continues for about 6 hours, and then it absolutely falls off a cliff. Look at this closely. At 3:50 p.m., Bitcoin was almost at $117,000, and then it plummeted to $109,000 in extremely short order. Same exact story for XRP. Look at 3:50 p.m. XRP was sitting at $2.69, and then it fell to its low. Live CoinWatch is now reporting it as $2.06, even though it showed $2.02 earlier. Whatever you think the actual low is, that's fine. It depends on which exchange you're looking at, since XRP has different prices across different exchanges.
But the key thing is, it all happened at the exact same time. The stock market didn't fare too well either. In terms of percentage loss, it was nowhere near what we saw in crypto, but that's pretty normal. Here's the headline from CNBC. Dow drops almost 900 points. S&P 500 declines the most since April after Trump's new China tariff threat. That article was published at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Time, which would be about a half hour after things really started falling off a cliff here at 3:50 Central Time. So here's what's really interesting about today's sell-off. It's all about the timing. Think about this for a second. Stocks and crypto both reacted to Trump's tariff threat this morning. That makes sense, right? We're talking about risk-on assets here. But stocks and crypto both initially reacted to the news in a measured way. But crypto didn't truly collapse until hours later, around 3:50 p.m. Central. That's when it fell off a cliff. Now, this delay is really important because it shows this wasn't just an instant reaction to news. Here's what actually happened. The tariff story sparked the first wave of selling, sending a risk-off signal to the market. Traders started closing their positions. But here's the thing. Crypto markets run on leverage, which means lots of people are trading with borrowed money. When prices started to slip, that leverage began working against them. Throughout the day, as I showed you, prices slowly bled for about 6 hours after the news broke. Traders got increasingly nervous. Then, as the afternoon wore on, a chain reaction started. Some big positions hit their stop-loss levels or liquidation thresholds, forcing exchanges to automatically sell those positions. That extra selling pressure triggered even more liquidations. It's a feedback loop, everyone. A feedback loop that built momentum quickly. Once it reached that critical point, everything just exploded all at once. That's why you see that chart that looks like a cliff face. So the gap between the morning reaction and the afternoon crash wasn't some mysterious event. It was the system unwinding itself in slow motion. Well, I say slow. 6 hours is subjective, I guess. But once enough leverage stacked up under the surface, it only took one small push, one tiny nudge, to make everything break at once. That's why crypto seemed relatively calm for hours and then suddenly collapsed. Now, of course, anytime you get an event like this, people start diving into conspiracy theory territory. You'll hear people screaming about manipulation. And look, I'm not going to say they're completely wrong. What I will say is this. I've seen plenty of assertions claiming manipulation, but I haven't seen any actual evidence yet. When something this big happens this quickly, I'm absolutely open to the concept if anyone has legitimate proof. But outside of that, this is exactly the type of thing you would expect for an event of this magnitude. This was scary sounding tariff news. I know, it sounds like April wants its narrative back, right? But it got brought back from the dead, so here we are. When you have something like that happen, you're going to see capitulation events. Maybe certain people knew certain things in advance. Maybe there's an argument to be made for actual manipulation. I just want to see proof before I say definitively that's what happened. I'm just not wired that way. I want to see the data, and I'm completely open to it. You've just got to show it to me, because otherwise, I know that capitulation events naturally happen in risk-on asset classes, whether that's equities or crypto, so I'm going to reserve judgment on that for now. But I'll absolutely acknowledge it's possible. That's just as far as I can go right now. Now, here's something that's actually kind of funny when you think about it. We had this massive liquidation event, and on top of that, tons of people were panic selling. Very obviously, panic selling was happening on a massive scale. Did it even make sense to panic? Remember I told you I was going to circle back to something earlier? Let me show you this part from the CNBC article again. It reads, Trump also threatened in a social media post to cancel his upcoming meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping because of the dispute. Okay, now look at this headline that came out after the bloodbath in markets today. This is from Reuters at 6:04 p.m., just a couple hours ago. Here's the headline, Trump says China trade move shocking. Xi meeting not canceled. So there you go, he threatened to cancel the meeting. Markets fell apart, people got liquidated, net worths dropped substantially. Honestly, at its lowest point today, I probably lost about a third of my entire net worth. I didn't crunch the exact numbers, but just thinking through it quickly, I wouldn't be surprised if it's somewhere in that ballpark. And you know what? It doesn't matter. It's just on paper. I didn't sell anything, obviously. It doesn't matter because the market's going to keep trending upward. I know this for certain, so I have literally zero fear and zero concern about today's events. I've been in the market since 2017. I've never sold a single XRP. I've never cashed out to US dollars. The market trends to the upside. Despite these dramatic events, I've been through tons of capitulation events. This is just another one. But think about this for a second. After all of that, after the entire market bloodbath, Trump turns around and says the meeting isn't canceled. Are you kidding me right now? It's hilarious, but it's also incredibly frustrating. So many people were financially harmed today in a serious way. As reported by Coin Bureau, and this post has been seen 1.5 million times already, posted just a few hours ago. Breaking. Crypto liquidations soar to $9.4 billion in 24 hours. The largest single-day event ever. Bigger than Luna, bigger than COVID, bigger than FTX. We just witnessed history. Let that sink in. I lived through all of those capitulation events. Luna, the pandemic crash, FTX. I lived through every single one of them. None of them scared me. I actually bought during those events. During COVID, I got my lowest purchase price for XRP ever. I bought XRP at 15 cents. That's the cheapest I was ever able to buy, and that was in March of 2020. I talked about it on my channel at the time. I was absolutely thrilled to have that opportunity. Yes, my net worth was down just like everyone else's at the time, but I saw it as an opportunity. Then I bought more crypto when FTX collapsed in November 2022. Right now, I actually didn't purchase anything today, even though the market has already rebounded quite a bit. Frankly, if I'm going to buy at this point, I need to be way more enticed because my crypto bags are already so incredibly heavy. At this stage, it really does take a lot to get me to buy more. If I could have magically bought closer to that bottom today, I absolutely would have been interested. But then there was another major problem. The exchanges didn't work. I shared this post a couple hours ago. The trouble with capitulation and liquidation events like this is you can't count on being able to access exchanges like Coinbase. This screenshot is from the Coinbase app on my phone showing degraded performance. We are aware that some users may be experiencing latency or degraded performance when transacting. Our team is investigating this issue and will provide an update shortly. Your funds are safe, but the reality is they were actually completely down, along with most other exchanges. So even if you wanted to buy the bottom, it was pretty much impossible. Now, if you had purchase orders already set and the price hit them, great. I saw a lot of people celebrating that their orders got filled, and congratulations to you, genuinely. But if you wanted to make a move in that moment, you really couldn't. It was extremely difficult anyway because the exchanges were down. And that's another thing I really dislike about all of this. Raoul Pal experienced issues too, even aside from the exchange outages. Raoul Pal, of course, is a former Goldman Sachs executive and a very well-known figure in crypto with 1.2 million followers for good reason. He's the founder and CEO of Global Macro Investor and Real Vision. About half an hour after that cliff moment, at 4:22 p.m. Central, he posted, "Desperately trying to move money out of bank into crypto. Near impossible to in any reasonable time. Anyway, still a gift." So he views it as an opportunity, which is exactly what you'll find from anybody who's been in crypto for more than 5 minutes. I understand there are people out there who are genuinely afraid, especially if you're newer to crypto. The newer you are, the more likely you are to be scared right now. I'm telling you, there's a reason I'm actually laughing about this. It's because it's ridiculous. It's silly. It didn't need to happen, yet it did. And I also know that it doesn't matter in the long run. It's not going to change the big picture or the trajectory. It doesn't change anything fundamental. The market cycle isn't broken. It just scares people. I've been through too many of these events. As Coin Bureau cited, Luna, FTX, the pandemic, all of it. I've lived through every single one. All of those were proclaimed as the end of the world by certain people at the time. Yet here we are. The market ended up grinding higher afterward. This one will be no different. Yes, it's the biggest liquidation event in history. Okay, cool. A note for the history books. But it doesn't actually change anything for us fundamentally. Here's a post from Negentropic, the team that created the Glassnode and Swissblock. They seem to be curious about the manipulation concept as well. Like I said, if you've got evidence, I'm all ears. I genuinely mean that. Maybe there really is something to it. I'm not ruling it out. I'm just not ready to jump on that bandwagon because that's simply not how I'm wired. If I'm going to believe something, I need some form of evidence, because I also know these types of events can happen for legitimate reasons. It's not always manipulation. They wrote here, a biggest market manipulation event of the cycle. This is why you don't over-lever. I'd pause here to say that's why you shouldn't use leverage at all. That's my humble opinion anyway. Then they added, this is likely going to be undone by beginning of next week. And that's my suspicion as well. I don't know the exact timeline, mind you, but I think sooner rather than later, you're going to see prices roughly back to where they were before this happened. Probably sooner than later. It's going to happen. So for anybody looking to purchase, even though the market's already done a fair bit of recovering since the bottom, a lot of people are going to view this as a buying opportunity. The market cap for the crypto asset class right now is $3.66 trillion. Just for some context, I think it's really good to have perspective when stuff like this happens. Keep in mind that the market cap for crypto before the election, less than a year ago, was $2.2 trillion. So even after this massive pullback, we're still sitting at $3.66 trillion. The market has recovered a bit, but just have some perspective here. We're still way better off than we were a year ago, even after this historic crash. That's something important to consider. Also, I found it fascinating that Bitcoin basically dropped to the lower end of what Credible Crypto had identified as plausible. Not that he thought it would happen, but this is a black swan event. This is absolutely a black swan event. Credible Crypto, before this happened, was saying that Bitcoin has a safe zone. It wouldn't invalidate his bullish perspective if Bitcoin dropped as low as roughly $108,000. So anywhere from $108,000 to $118,000, nothing to worry about. I actually reported that on my channel, probably just yesterday. It's kind of interesting how he identified that as a key level, and that's almost exactly where Bitcoin bottomed during this crash. It's bounced up a bit since then. This is not something to freak out about. It simply is not. No matter what you think, no matter what your emotions are making you feel right now. A lot of analysts believe that was the worst of it. Once you get a cascading event like this, there's typically one really huge liquidation, and we just went through it. So I'd be surprised if there's another one of even close to this magnitude, even if the market dips a little bit lower. But either way, that was probably it. The analyst who were saying that was probably the worst of it, people like Blockchain Backer and others, they're probably right. Historic patterns indicate that when this happens, there's one big event. And maybe it takes a while for things to start moving back upward, but that massive drop was likely it. I don't know what the prices will be by the time you're watching this. Hopefully not lower, but it's possible. Either way, I really don't think you're going to see something of that magnitude again anytime soon. In all likelihood, we're past the worst of it. So we'll see what happens, but it still makes sense to be excited about crypto and just laugh at the absurdity of all this. This is completely ridiculous. It didn't have to happen, yet here we are. This is definitely not the video I thought I'd be making this evening, but hey, crypto surprises you sometimes. It absolutely surprises you. You get the opportunity for life-changing wealth, but not without going through events like this. And here's the reality. There's going to be another event like this in the future for a different reason. It'll be similar magnitude, maybe even worse. And that one won't be the end of the world either. This stuff just happens from time to time. It seems like every few years you get something like this. The key is staying calm, keeping perspective, and remembering why you're in this market in the first place. That's how you make it through these moments and come out stronger on the other side.